quiet on the set.
Can't sit right there, Dork.
Welcome to the BigmX Radio Detroit Supercross pregame show. I'm your host, Brad Gebhardt. I'm on all of these shows, and same like the two of my co-hosts. First and foremost, we have to get to the guy who's going to take an absolute beating tonight. He's off in Pluto. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's absolutely out to lunch and everything else in between. He is the 1990 East Coast 125 Supercross champion, but he is completely out of his mind. Denny Stephenson. Denny, welcome back to the show.
Fantastic to be here tonight. We've had a wonderful week of arguments between Checkers and I, my good friend, the sound of no Riesenberg. And I'm in Arizona for the week with my son for a little vacation with seeing some family. So I'm ready for tonight. You guys better bring it tonight. It's going to be heavy.
Well, leave it to us to completely ruin your vacation by proving you wrong time and time again. Also joining us for I believe the 8th show here, or maybe this is the 9th now, for YouTube Live. He is the voice of Riesenberg from Race Tech. You have none other than Checkers. Checkers, how's it going?
Pretty good. That's right, Denny. It's going to be heavy, just like me. Not with just me, but with facts. Ding, ding, ding. Let's get ready to rumble.
It's time.
Two will enter. No, there are no winners in all of this, to be completely honest. But we are really excited to have this show again. We've already got some people watching on YouTube Live, and we appreciate everyone for doing exactly that. I want to kick things off with a segment that is brought to you by Race Tech. Race Tech suspension engine is the choice for the fastest privateers in the entire world, and a source of a bunch of factory and OEM programs that we can't even talk about. You can visit them right down in California, or you can visit one of your local service centers that are extremely knowledgeable and can help you out, help you drop your lap times, like I hope to this summer when I hunt down yet another vet championship here in Manitoba. But it's time for the Race Tech rapid recap with our friend Checkers. Checkers, take it away.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick look back at a very ruddy and gnarly Indianapolis track, starting it off with the cheesy headline of the week: Roczen tames gnarly track and dinosaur in Indianapolis. Kenny gives Hep Motorsports their first main event win. Denny, I know you had to get right in front of this thing right away this week and had made some bold statements, and shocker, you were wrong. What did you think?
Yeah, that was, man, I had to get in front of that quick. I was watching that main event, and let's be honest, Kenny rode phenomenal. Got out front, rode that rut down the middle of the whoops like a damn Olympic gymnast. Great balance. The bike worked great. The Hep team did great. Justin Souls did fantastic. And yeah, I ate a lot of crow all week. Honestly, it seemed like every idiot who was a Kenny Roczen fan was coming out of the woodwork to let them remind me that I fucked up and was wrong. But it was an outstanding ride. Nothing, I can't say anything against that. I think it's more about the fact that I just didn't think the motorcycle could get it done. I didn't think a 2018 RM 450 could win a main event. I didn't think it was capable of beating the other factory bikes. And as much as I'm wrong, I think that these other teams need to take a good look in the mirror and just realize they got beat by a 5-year-old bike with bolt-on parts they bought at the shop. So it's a great ride for Hep. Happy for them, happy for Kenny. And yeah, I guess now I'm going to have to say, call me when he wins too.
Yeah, I saw that Chad didn't want to take your double or nothing bet, so I guess you owed the Reeds $100 because you know he needs that money.
I was hoping for an autographed set of gear to give away at Moto Extreme, and it ends up I had to owe Chad $100. So
bummer. Moving on in the 250 class, Lawrence runs away and requests silence in Indianapolis. Hunter unchallenged by the track or the media in Indy. Brad, you kind of brought it up to us about a little press conference thing with Hunter Lawrence and Nate Thrasher, and then he was great on the track, but maybe not so great with the PR department.
Yeah, well, I really don't understand the silencing of maybe one of the most compelling stories within the series, especially on the 250 side all season long. You have a West Coast championship that is basically done and dusted. No one's really been able to challenge Jet for more than a couple of corners. But Nate Thrasher has shown times where he is every bit as fast as Hunter Lawrence. Obviously, Hunter's gotten the better of him more times than not. But this is a grudge match that needs to be talked about, and to not sort of fuel that fire and more eyeballs on it. They instead the Hunter, obviously the Lawrence camp wanted to sort of silence that a little bit, and I was discouraged to see that. And it's kind of puzzling altogether, just because something as impactful as that, you'd think you'd want more attention to it rather than less attention to it, but that was their decision. I was bummed out to see it, but regardless, Hunter Lawrence turns in another sterling performance, an A+ from me. And he set sail toward a Detroit Supercross where I think he's going to have a lot of success.
I mean, he's been pretty successful in that whole season. It's just perplexing to me because they're very smart with the media over there. And the day and age that we live in, the way that you get people to talk about something is you tell people not to talk about it, and they do the exact opposite. And that's been happening across the moto media all week, just not in the press conference, which I would think that the moto media throughout the week has more reach than the press conference. So pretty interesting on that. We'll see what develops from there. But moving on, Cooper's Webb can't catch Kenny or Bam, but catches red plate instead. Cooper Webb is the new points leader with a podium in Indianapolis. Another great ride. He was right there with the leaders, and pretty interesting race for Cooper Webb grabbing the points lead. Denny?
Definitely Webb. It was an interesting race as far as Kenny out front. I think the track really suited him. The ruts, it was a slower paced, more technical track, which I think suited him and the bike once they've got that dialed in to turn. Bam and Webb, they went toe to toe, and we're seeing the best from Barcia. We've seen it a lot of time. He's been consistent this year, but we really haven't seen that blazing speeds, except these last 2 rounds where he's turned the fastest lap time in a main event at Daytona and then at Indy. And we had commented earlier where, I personally felt that they dropped Webb. Webb was right there in the hunt, and they reeled in Webb or Roczen. And I was actually surprised that Webb was right there. But when there was on lap 25 to 27, Webb flew off the track, made a mistake, did something, dropped 4 seconds, and ended up losing the race by 8 seconds. So as far as I'm concerned, he was unable to keep the pace for 27 laps and got beat by 8 seconds by Ken and Barcia, regardless of the fact Cooper is leading the points by a whopping 13 points over Chase Sexton. So I think it's right now it's a Cooper Webb, Eli Tomac show, and I know we'll talk more about that later.
You are ridiculous.
We certainly will.
You're so wrong on Webb getting dropped. You've been on this thing all week because
the different
show
4 seconds in one lap. If he couldn't keep
he
the
went
pace
off the track,
why'd he drop 4 seconds?
It's like, okay, it would be a completely different scenario if Webb was going all out as hard as he could, and the best he could muster is a lap time 4 seconds slower. But he went off the track. It was a mistake.
I had no idea. You're both bozos. He couldn't keep the pace. He either got into lap traffic, either messed up on the track. I know that Ken and neither Justin had a problem with the track or lap traffic, and they ran all the way to the finish on a perfect main. Webb made a mistake in lap 25, dropped 4 seconds, and then 8 seconds behind the main event. I'm sorry, but that's considered getting dropped. Webb was unable to keep the pace, made a mistake that neither one of those two made, and finished the race 8 seconds back in third. He's still the points leader, obviously, and just one race means nothing, but he was dropped by those two by lap 27.
No, not dropped at all. Here's the thing. What do we know about Cooper Webb? He is smart. He's a late race charging person. He was set up with 5 minutes to go. If you look at the lap times, he drops his lap time and is the fastest guy on the racetrack. And then he made a mistake going through lappers. It was because of the lappers throwing him out of his line that he made a mistake. Here's the thing.
Barcia didn't make a
Webb
mistake.
knew that his championship contenders were behind him. So he makes a mistake. Here's the thing. He makes a mistake. He tries to come back, realizes it's not going to happen. He cruises in on the last lap. That is why the gap was so big. He knew his championship competitors were behind him. He has the red plate now. He's been faster at 8 of 9 rounds already this year. All of a sudden, he gets dropped by them and he just doesn't have the pace. Are you kidding me? Roczen does what he always does. He barely closed, but he did. Congratulations to him. He managed his lead just barely. But it's just crazy. Like, this is Roczen's only his 6th career 450 win after March 1st ever. He is not a guy that's just going to outclose Cooper Webb. The thing is, he's been on the losing end of 7 of the 20 closest Supercross finishes of all time. You don't think Cooper Webb knows that? Cooper Webb's been part of 3 of the 5 closest finishes since 2003. And guess what? He's won them. The closest finish ever. Webb beat Roczen. He is a closer. He always closes.
He wasn't in India. He was not
at the end of a race.
You can pull up past facts all you want. I'm looking at this race right here. Webb was the slowest of 13 laps. Is that your stat? Is that what you're showing me here? So clearly he didn't close, and clearly he got dropped. He made a mistake in lap 25, lost 4 seconds. The 2 leaders did not make that mistake. When you make that mistake, you've been dropped by the 2 guys who are going faster and more consistent than you. It's a fact. I don't know what you're even arguing.
Look at the lap times at the end of the race.
I don't care what their lap times say.
He
on
didn't
lap
get
25,
dropped.
he made a mistake. The other 2 did not make a mistake. If you don't want to get dropped, don't make that fucking mistake on lap 25. Period.
Barsha was the fastest guy on the racetrack.
Yeah.
Ken Roczen got good track position with a good start and managed the race. He is your race winner. Barsha was the fastest, but Webb did not get dropped. He made a single mistake.
He made a 4-second mistake on lap 25. He cruised in those last 2 laps, sure, but that lap 25 is when he made a mistake that the 2 leaders did not make, hence the word dropped. Move on. You're wrong. No, I'm not.
Like somebody got dropped in their head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good. I was going to say that.
That was my line earlier this week.
It was. I was going to say it before Checkers got to it first too, and I got beat again on that one.
Well, you got dropped on that one, Denny.
Yeah.
Speaking of dropped,
Mom dropped him on his head.
Eli Tomac dropped the points lead. Eli Tomac spotted in Indianapolis. Alter ego arrives. Tomac terrible in the Circle City. Brad, what do you think? Eli Tomac, what happened?
Oh, like he might be diagnosed for schizophrenia by the end of this season, because this was 50 shades of Tomac. This is the guy we don't want to see. This is the guy who coughs up championships in 17 and 18. This is the guy who so many fans or naysayers said it couldn't get done. And this is exactly the kind of night that it happened. Honestly, like I did not like to see it. Like he's such a warrior, and he gets so much praise for being able to be super gnarly. And the track was crazy gnarly. Like that was honestly, you couldn't have paid me to head out onto that track. That the way the ruts were forming, that whoop section, I don't even know what you would do with that. And to see Eli Tomac just have no answers and not be able to move forward, and then even to like sort of get into it with a lapper late in the race and end up relinquishing a position to Craig, who maybe was like the one shining moment for Denny on a night where Roczen wins. He gets another top 8 for his favorite rider in the entire world. It was very discouraging to see, and there should be some alarm bells for a guy who's now lost the points lead. Not for the championship, like obviously I think he's still a contender that way. But he needs to bounce back in Detroit big time.
That's right. Eli Tomac is back, Denny.
Well, we talked about it on the thread, and I don't want to admit he's back. I mean, obviously I created the name. I created that doppelganger that Eli had created for himself, and brought the name.
They do look the same.
And I don't want to, I hope that's not back. It's kind of what Brad said. It's if that's what he's come back to, which, let's be honest, he just won Daytona 2 weeks ago, and everybody's now thinking the sky is falling on Eli Tomac, which
that is Eli Tomac.
He's got 5 wins under his belt. He literally won last week, 2 weeks ago, in Daytona for his 7th win. He might have been Eli Tomac for one round. They all make mistakes, right? I mean, if that was the case, Chase Sexton would be Eli Tomac every damn weekend, it seems like, with all the mistakes he's made lately. And let's bring it up. This is what I was thinking about. We were talking about earlier. If that was Eli Tomac, he still beat Chase Sexton by 2 spots. So let's be honest, who had the worst weekend? The guy who rode around, or the guy who ate shit and ended up 10th? So Eli's still 1 point out of Webb. Sexton's 13 points back. If Eli Tomac is back, he seems to be still faster than Sexton and Indy.
The thing is it's not Eli Tomac that is crashing and having a bad result, or just has a bad result. Eli Tomac is Tomac just riding around in 8th place. Tomac just getting passed on the last lap by Christian Craig, who hasn't been able to get out of his own way this year. Oh, this is Eli Tomac. These are the weird rides. This is why you created the name. His lap times dropped off over 2 seconds at the end of the race, more than everybody else's. It's his worst result ever on a Star Yamaha. His worst result in 2 years.
Yeah.
In 9 races, Eli Tomac has 5 wins, but only 6 podiums. You know what that means? If he's on, he wins. He crushes these guys. If he's off, Eli Tomac is here slowing him down in his head. He's not willing to risk it. If you look at these challenging tracks, if he's not comfortable with the motorcycle, he's not going to push it. That is what I believe is where Eli Tomac comes from, is when he's not comfortable, he's not going to turn it up and risk the big crash, which has helped him be at the racetrack every single weekend. He's gotten championships done. But the fact of the matter is there's races where he's not comfortable. He's going to be running around as an 8th place rider. Eli Tomac has returned. It's not maybe, it's not kind of. He is back, and he better not come out too many more times this year, or Eli is not going to be your Supercross champion.
I think a lot
All
of
right. Well, this is no longer a rapid.
Real quick. I think it just comes to the fact that big crash we saw Eli have at the Triple Crown, where he yard sailed, and it was a pretty gnarly, violent crash. He luckily landed on some tough blocks, or it could have been even worse. And I think you're right, Chex. When he's not comfortable, he's not going to push it. Whether or
I was
not
right. You hear that?
Whether or not that comes from being the age he is, the success he has, the father he is, the husband he is. I mean, who knows? But I don't know. I'll start worrying about it when it's a repeat performance of Eli Tomac. But for right now, he's still only 1 point out of it in one last week. So we'll head to Indianapolis or Detroit and see what happens.
You heard it here first. Debo says that Chris was right. It doesn't really matter what the argument was really about. Chris was right. Next up, will the real Detroit Supercross please stand up? It's a beautiful place to have a Supercross race. I'm so excited for this round. The soil, it's in the same region as Indy, but we don't get the same soft, rutted jump faces like you see in Indianapolis. That is basically a hallmark of that particular race. But the thing about Detroit Supercross, it gets hard, it gets slick, and sometimes you get those corners that just sort of fall away. So if you happen to have a guy that you're looking for on your fantasy team who likes to push the front, like an RJ Hampshire perhaps, or maybe a Martin Davalos of yesteryear, maybe leave him on the bench. Because there's been times where this soil is very unpredictable, very soft, and will just push away at a moment's notice. Keeping in mind as well, just this last week, Monster Jam was at this stadium. That means thousands of pounds of high octane jumping up into the air and coming crashing down onto the stadium floor, where the base gets super, super hard, icy, leading into these jumps. That means coming off of a Supercross triple, these guys are going to be hard on the binders, and the front end is going to go gone. And honestly, I'm here for all of that. I'm looking forward to this race. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The one thing that I really wish is that we still had the Pontiac Silverdome, because that was absolutely amazing venue, and we used to have those double headers. Debo, can you please regale me with some stories of the Pontiac Supercross and all of those amazing double headers, which I'm sure you probably got a chance to stand on the top of the podium at some point or another?
90 was back-to-back nights, and I won both nights. That was the night, not sure which night it would have been that I crashed going up in the parade. Well, on the parade lap, I was decided I was gonna do a seat bounce over the big double before we went to the tunnel, and turns out my gas was off, and I dove through the bars. So we rushed back to the start line. My front brake cable is slightly bent and kinked. They get that thing up, wired it up, taped it up. Going up the start straight, going up in the but up in the stands. I run in the back of Talon Bow and crash, and now I'm dead last. I'm like, well, there's a hell of a way to start a night of racing. And that's the night I caught up to Mike Jones, and then Mike proceeded to dive bomb me about half dozen times, and I was able to pull off the win. So that was obviously a very memorable, special night in 90. Fast forward to 94, I think it was, or maybe 93. Just like the Indy track, I drug my pegs. Back then, Pontiac was known for being rutted, soft, very deep ruts, faces of jumps, 20 across. Like I posted something on Instagram, but when you see that, you never forget that moment. And I drug pegs, bike stopped, dove through the bars, and Pontiac is known for a lot of crazy shit. Bob Hanna, I think, has won there 9 times, which is crazy over the years. And it's just a different vibe, obviously, being in Detroit. So as I've always said, most of the buildings I raced in 90 and won in have all been imploded, just like the Silverdome.
Yeah, they've gotten rid of stuff like that. It's crazy. The last person I remember going down hard when they used to go up into the stands for Detroit was Justin Starling, who his front end grabbed a tough block heading back down to the stadium floor, and he absolutely kissed the dirt. It was a pretty gnarly crash. I think that was what spurred him coming onto the podcast, the BigmX Radio podcast. That is, for the very first time, many moons ago. He was number 99 on a Honda. But yeah, that's for yesteryear. If you're looking for more BigmX Radio content, of course, you can check out the podcast, which is on iTunes and Spotify. And maybe you're listening to this podcast on iTunes or Spotify on the BigmX Radio network. Or you can head over to Verb Moto and find my weekly articles there every single week. Working closely with those guys. Absolutely love it. Feel very lucky to do so. All right, now here's checkers with last year's results, which are pertinent because a lot of these guys are still active in the sport.
Yeah, it was a super interesting look when I was doing some research for this, looking at last year's results. I'm just going to run down the top 10 quick, but it's Tomac, Mookie, Barsha, Musquin, Brayton, Freeze, McElrath, Bogle, Hartranft, Clayson. 6 of the top 10 aren't even racing this year at Detroit, but you notice the guys like McElrath, Bogle, Hartranft, Clayson rounding out the top 10, or even Vince Freese up in 6th. Where are your contenders? Well, if you think back, this is the race where Jason Anderson lost his front end and hit his head. 21st place. Cooper Webb, 20th place. I believe this is when he seat bounced a triple that wasn't a triple into a rhythm section. Forgot where he was on the track. And of course, Chase Sexton, 22nd place. Yeah, we hope that Chase got rid of these crashes. Now that it's been a year.
Isn't this the same race that Ferrandis went down hard too?
This is the race he tore up his thumb.
Yeah,
he didn't crash. He cased something.
Yeah, like this was an absolute massacre.
Yeah, this whole night was just unbelievable. This was like you said. Checker said that Webb seat bounced to a double or triple. There was a double. Sexton landed on top of him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, the torn up jersey.
Yeah, it just ate up because his bike just chased him down. Yeah, this was a very violent and memorable race that we all remember how gnarly dirt bikes are.
It'll be really interesting to see how this year's plays out, because honestly, I'm pretty bummed on the Detroit Supercross design. Maybe more bummed than I have been on any this year.
Star Racing's not.
You've heard me. Is it their test track?
Yes.
Yeah. So I didn't know that, but it's just
this is like inch for inch. This is the layout that Star Racing Yamaha trains on every single week. This is to the letter what they have at home.
I mean, they have a single 180 berm with a quote Supercross section in and out of the turn. All the other ones have a straightaway or something else, or a wall jump or something stupid coming in and out of them.
Yes,
there's long whoops, but there's a 90 coming out of them. And the reason that I struggle with the 90 coming out is you're coming down the whoops into a 90. Everyone apexes that 90-degree corner, and you start to drift over to chop.
So everyone's going to fade one side
to the corner, so you can't really get a run past somebody, and you can't go down the outside of them because you're left nowhere to go in the corner. All they have to do is block you. But hopefully this will be the last of it, because speaking of next up, as we're in the next up segment, we have 3 very, very unique tracks coming up. We have Seattle coming, which the weather and the ruts, you never know what you're going to get. Then you go to Glendale, where it's always big stadium floor and fast. And then we get our first speedway round. And then we have 2 elevation rounds finishing out the series as well, when we start going to both Denver and Salt Lake. So this might be the last kind of normal-ish Supercross that we see for quite a while.
Absolutely. And you guys know me. I like my Supercross tracks the same way I like my motocross tracks. Big tits. All right. Next segment brought to you by MXD360.com. If you're not already on that website, you need to be. First of all, it's a lot of fun, even if you're as bad at it as I am. And just by entering and signing up, you can be entering to win a set of the King. That's right, Jeremy fucking McGrath. You can get a set of his gear. And it's also you could be playing the StormLakeHonda.com league. Go check that out, guys. Lots of fun. Some rapid fire questions. So get ready, Depot. This comes at you hot. 110 miles an hour straight down the pipe. Who ends the season with more Supercross wins? Jet Lawrence or Hunter fucking Lawrence?
Hunter fucking Lawrence. I'm going with Hunter, man. We got helicopters even surrounding around. They can't believe it. There's right now, obviously, the East rounds get one more shot at it. They get 10. while the West gets 9. So even if they went perfect all season, there's two shootouts. I think going to New Jersey, I think Hunter's going to get the best of Jet in New Jersey. I don't know about Salt Lake. Jet's going to have such a big points lead. Who knows if he's even going to race that. So I'm going to say at the moment that Hunter's going to go away with probably out of 10 rounds. I'd say he's always lost 1. I'd say he's going to win at least 8 rounds or 9 rounds, and Jet will have 8 rounds. So
wow.
Even if they win out the rest of the season, yeah, I'm going.
They're just going to run the table. That would be like an epic amount of dominance. Honestly, I'd be here for it.
These guys are incredible.
Checkers. I love what you did with this one, Checkers. Best finish 2023 Supercross series for Christian Kregerson.
I think Christian Craig's best finish will be a 5th place finish. I think he'll get a single top 5. The way that he's
not
performing right now is he's staying on 2 wheels and going to stay in the series. And as attrition happens, and also he's been building, he is getting better. As much as I like to give Denny a hard time about it and whatnot, he's gradually building and getting better. So I think he can get up to a 5th in a single race, but he certainly is not even eligible to get 8 of them now.
Well,
that is actually true.
It's nice we talk about him because he's literally been invisible all season long.
Yeah.
So but there are 8 rounds left. So if he went top 5 for the rest of the season, my bet's good, I guess.
Yeah, that is what would need to happen, Denny. So my next question for you, Denny, and rapid fire question is: what will be the best finish 2023 Supercross in the 250 class for Christopher Los?
Well, he's been riding fantastic. He's obviously getting more and more accustomed to that Monster Energy Kawasaki. And he rode great this last weekend, but he did get a little bit of a gift with Viali going down and Hayden going down late in the race. But you got to be there at the end of the race, and Belos knows what it's like to hit the ground. We don't call him zombie for nothing. He got a 6, rode great. But as Checkers said, he was going to get a top 5 in this season. He was going to take that bet, and I took the bet that he would not get a top 5 this season because coming into this season, he was 1 top 5 of 38 performances. He is now 1 top 5 of 43 performances. And I can't sway my bet with Checkers. So I think he can do. I think he can easily run 6 to 10 through the rest of the season. I think he'll continue to get some 6 and 7s, but I can't see Chris Belos getting a top 5 if everybody stays up. And obviously, 2 guys went down who were top 5 guys this past weekend, and he still got a 6. So it's great to see him out there. Great to see him have this opportunity. But Mr. Zombie's going to be getting a 6 for the rest of the season. I say.
Wrong.
You may very well be wrong about that.
Checkers,
certainly you're wrong about how Christian Craig's season would go. Yeah. Checkers, according to Ricky Carmichael, well, in past years he said the series started in Daytona. Apparently this series says this series started in Indy. Who has been most impressive through the last 2 rounds?
I messed that quote up, by the way. It is Daytona. I was thinking it starts after Daytona, but no, it starts in Daytona. Oh. So the guy that wrote the script is an idiot. But who has been in most?
We've already established that, and we'll do so further along in the show.
Didn't make that
well, I think you guys will all agree with me. The guy that's been most impressive the last 2 rounds, though, is definitely Bam Bam. Barsha he's been fast. That's the difference. We've all seen the Justin Barsha that gets a good start and has really good racecraft and can hang on and have some good finishes. But he was the fastest guy on the track at Indianapolis, and he was the fastest guy on the track at Daytona, and maybe Eli could have turned it up a little bit more had Barsha been up there pushing him. But obviously Tomac and Webb were going really fast. I think hands down, I haven't seen this speed from Barsha in a really long time. And honestly, for us, hopefully it continues because it's always entertaining watching him saw across the inside of every corner, heading straight at everybody's leg. I would hate to race against the guy. I'm not a fan of him off the track, but holy crap, I have embraced him on the track and absolutely love the chaos he creates.
I totally agree. Debo, take this. This is the Lawrence's future in the motocross world. Take that, throw it out the window. When I'm talking, my next question for you is: of the current 250 crop, who has the best potential future in the 450 class with the Lawrences excluded from that? And and what is their ceiling?
That's a real shame because I love throwing the fact that Checkers thought that Austin Faulkner was going to have a better 450 career than Hunter Lawrence.
Oh God.
I really think that Hunter is going to wrong. I
It's
can't
not
wait
over.
to be on a big bike, but that's a great question because I'm trying to actually look up some of these riders here that might be that next kind of guy, because that's kind of what we've been struggling with is who's next, who's coming up, who's going to step in this 450 ride and really get it done. We don't really, a lot of these guys are so young. I don't think anybody's gonna be moving up here anytime soon, except the Lawrence brothers. We just seen RJ Hampshire have a great ride at Daytona, a 6th, but again, that's a very specific race. We've talked about the fact that we've seen some other guys have great ride, J Mart, J Law, and not have turn around and have any type of career in a 450 because their careers pretty much ended. Or J Mart's here on a 250 15 years later. I'd really like to see RJ Hampshire get a shot at it because I think it would calm his style down a little bit. I think he kind of sometimes way overrides that Husky more than the bike can even handle it, indoors and out. His style is, I think he's able to calm down when he's with a bigger bike with more power. So it's kind of an obvious answer, and I don't have anything better because I don't really see anyone behind him coming up that's capable of that. Maybe Joe Shimoda's style could really translate into a 450 ride as well. But right now, I think the only guy that's really might be moving on to a 450 in the next year or two is outside of the Lawrence brothers is RJ Hampshire. So I hope someone gives him a shot. I'm a firm believer that you don't need a 250 Supercross title to be a successful 450 rider. And I hope RJ gets a shot next year and he can get him off this bike and give him a chance to revitalize his career on a bigger bike.
One name I'll throw out there eventually, obviously it's a few years down the road because he keeps getting injured, is Seth Hamaker. I think he's going to be a great 450 guy. All right. Next, in a segment that can only be brought to you by airwheeliesonly.com. Yes, that's a real website. Believe it or not. Don't believe me? Type it into your browser and find out. These versus questions, unfortunately, for the one they call Riesenberg, it did not go well. This last week, it was 4-1 in favor of the 1990 125 East Supercross champion. And that is a dominant performance, which narrowed the gap 9 correct to 9 correct. It is a clean slate as we roll in to the Detroit Supercross. Checkers, you probably didn't even get any get any lube for that particular one. I feel bad for you on that one. You got absolutely bent over in the versus question. But the beauty of it is that we rack them every single week and give you guys an opportunity to do battle once again. The first versus question is Jason Anderson versus Ken Roczen. I guess that's for who does better this particular weekend. Checkers, you have the floor because you are the loser from this last weekend.
Just remember, I lost so bad last week, but I already had such a big lead that I still am tied for the lead. And trust me, I did my homework this week to make sure that I'm coming right back out on top. And here's the deal. Ken Roczen, it's the second half of the season still. Does it change because he didn't have a boot camp? I don't think so, because he was traveling all over the world. It all comes down to his result was so good because Indy was a one-off type mud race almost, where everyone was in survival mode.
It was the driest mud race in the world.
And he is an exceptional talent. And that track took exceptional talent. He also has nothing really to lose. He needs to ride for the win because he's out of the championship, so he can push it to the edge. We're going to go back to more of a normal race. I mean, here's the thing. Last week, they lapped into the top 10 because everybody was in survival mode. And it was like the best race of the year for Roczen, Barsha, Cincerillo, and both Hill brothers and Kyle Chisholm, plus J-Mart, Bloss, Miller, Hicks, the Cat, all tied or made their best finishes in the 250 class. It's because it was a crazy one-off race. So Roczen's not going to just go win again in Detroit or be incredibly good in Detroit. And you know who was great in Detroit last year? Jason frickin' Anderson was absolutely the best guy in Detroit last year before a very small slip up caused a freak crash. If he would have just washed the front end out, he still wins that race last year. That's how good he was. Anderson needs to rebound. He's going to rebound. He will smoke Roczen in Detroit. No problem.
The guy on vacation has the floor.
It's been a very weird year for Jason Anderson. I think we can all agree that we expected El Hombre to come in a little bit more guns a-blazing. He has really just kind of been building off fourths and fifths and occasional third here, but not very many, mainly fourths and fifths and sixths. And I know he's not happy with that. So And Ken is an emotional rider. Ken's going to come off this win. We saw him basically do a Jimi Hendrix. He's going to burn his bike to the ground, I think, on the starting line there. He had the Kickstarter ready from old Travis Souls. And I think Ken will carry this momentum in. I agree that track, the rutted track, was very unique. I think it definitely played into Ken Roczen's style. Very technical, very slow paced. I think the faster the tracks get, the more sweeping they get. I think Ken will struggle a little bit. But the way the season is going, I don't see Jason coming out with guns ablazing. I don't think we'll see what we've seen last year. And Checkers talked about being a crazy one-off race last week. I think we just talked about what a crazy one-off race Detroit was last year. I think we could see some more of that craziness. And I think Ken Roczen will take down Jason Anderson in Detroit. And let's be honest, between Checkers not being tied at 9, the series doesn't begin until Detroit.
Fair enough. Moving on to the you guys are this is going to heat up, and honestly, we haven't even gotten to the maybe most hot button topic of the podcast. Thanks to everybody who's watching currently on YouTube. We appreciate the increase in viewers as well as the comments. Everyone get in and weigh in on what you think of how these guys are building their arguments, as feeble as they may be. Talking about two guys who have had varied amounts of success so far here in the 250 East class. You have Max Anstey versus Nate Thrasher. Debo, you just spoke about Ken Roczen. Now you have the floor on these two.
Well, Max Anstey's been having a phenomenal year, but I think you can always see some of the shine coming off of it. Checkers has always said that, the factory riders tend to shine as the season goes on. And I think this is kind of the case again with Nate Thrasher. So I'm not really giving Ken that Checkers the benefit of the doubt, but in a second, a little backhanded comment, I am a little bit, because Nate Thrasher, I think, is definitely rising to the top. He's been riding phenomenally. I think he could have even won last week if he'd gotten a whole shot, or at least a better start, and even had a chance to keep an eyes on Hunter. He's the guy to watch this season. Obviously, Hunter, it's his championship to lose, but I think it's Thrasher's time to learn, get some wins under his belts, be more consistent, stay off the ground. And I think last week was a good start from it. Daytona obviously was not good for Nate, but I think Nate Thrasher takes it to the bangers and mash of Max Anstey.
All right.
I love when
All right.
It makes me super happy that you went that direction, so that I can go Max Anstey, who, by the way, hasn't finished outside the top 5 in a single race this year, and the shine's worn off. He's gone 2, 3, 5, 2, 5. Yeah, I mean, I guess if all top 5s in a second place just 2 rounds ago is wearing off, he was absolutely fine in Indianapolis. He's a veteran rider. He's not just going to throw it away. He was making sure that he kept good points and a good finish. He's crushing it on that Firepower Honda. And Max Anstey will beat Thrasher, because here's the thing. Thrasher has speed, but he's a typical 250 rider right now, because guess what? He has 2 finishes in the double digits. You cannot do that. And the fact is, he's inconsistent. He's roller coaster. He's always been a roller coaster. He's just much better this year. I am happy with where Thrasher's going, and I called it from the beginning, by the way, but Max Anstey is going to beat him just because the odds are in his favor that he's not going to make the mistake, and there's a better chance that Thrasher will.
It's funny. You use your own argument against yourself. It's so funny. I love it.
It's incredible. No, like it's watching Chris Chase's tail sometimes is maybe the most entertaining part of the show. Moving on to the next versus question, Checkers, you're going to have to react quickly on this one as well. You have Cooper Webb, who for all intents and purposes has been extremely just like he's moving forward. He's putting himself in good positions, time in, time out, every single weekend. And that's why he currently has the red plate, the first guy to rip that away from Eli Tomac all season long. And this is the first time in a long time we've seen the title chase and the points lead change this late in the season. We have Cooper Webb versus Chase Sexton, who had himself a pretty abysmal race this last weekend, getting 10th. I didn't pick him for Survivor, the Survivor in Supercross. So I was hoping he was going to get an 11th and get a few people out of that game. Unfortunately, he didn't. But Checkers, who you got? Cooper Webb or Chase Sexton?
I guess it's time to get into this right now. We
get into it now?
Yeah, we're going to get into it now, because I can't hold back on this. Denny
fucking right
saying all week, it's been driving me flipping insane that, oh my goodness, Chase Sexton is out of this title fight. It's a whole 13 points. Oh my goodness, he's not going to be able to get it done. Well, guess what? there's this guy that's actually in this title fight. His name was Eli Tomac. After round
Get him,
number
checkers.
9 in 2017, he was 24 points down, and he had the points lead after round 15.
Get him, checkers.
Sexton.
Yeah.
The other thing, the field is deep right now, and with that, guys like, Cooper Webb and or perhaps Eli Tomac, they get in the mix, give Sexton points. If you get one like 4th place finish, that lead's cut in half. There's a lot of opportunity to make up a lot of points for Chase Sexton. And the fact of the matter is he's still the fastest guy. And here's the final point that's going to make this different. Chase Sexton is no longer in a mode where he has to protect being a title contender, try to be safe to stay in the points hunt. The pressure's off now. It's either win and make up points, or you are out of it. So now Chase doesn't have that in the back of his mind, which makes him think he's going to shut the brain off. He's going to relax, and he's going to ride his motorcycle, and he's going to ride it faster than all those guys because he's the fastest guy. He's going to figure it out. Chase Sexton is far from out of this title fight, and the title run starts right now this weekend. So yes, he beats Cooper Webb. Denny, tell us why I am right and you were wrong.
You told me you're going to just burn me to ground with some stats and numbers, and that's all you got. You got Eli Tomac from 2017. Came
That's
from
just one example. It's easy.
I didn't know that Chase Sexton was Eli Tomac in 2017. This is 2023, my friend.
That's
Chase
right. Sexton is faster.
Right, Chase Sexton has beat Cooper Webb only twice out of 9 rounds. That's 22%. He hasn't beaten Webb in the last 4 rounds. He hasn't beaten him in over a month. 42 days since the last time Chase Sexton's beaten Cooper Webb. 42 days. And he's only beat him twice out of 9 races. So all of a sudden, he's just going to flip a switch in these last 8 rounds and start dropping Webb like no habit. We know Chase Sexton doesn't have it in him. We know that he deals with his own anxiety. We know he deals with his own pressures. He beats himself up. We've seen photos of it. We've seen pictures of it. We witnessed it at the Motocross of the Nations. He is not good under pressure. And we realize that he's not under pressure now per se, but he's still putting pressure on himself. Honda is still putting pressure on himself. And he is putting more pressure on himself than ever right now because he's gone to shit. He's had his 2 worst rounds. Daytona, he was in such a way at Barsha. He was in the way of Barsha. The Barsha almost jumped on him twice. Last week, again, fastest guy on the track. I didn't know they paid points for lap times in practice and being the fastest heat race winner. And then we go to Tomac. He's beaten Tomac 3 out of the last 9 races. That's 33%. He's beaten 3 out of 9. So if he only beats Tomac 33% of the time, the last 8 rounds, he ain't even going to come close to this title. And he hasn't beaten both of them, but only once out of 9 rounds. One time he's beaten both of them, and that's the round he won at A2 49 days ago. He hasn't won a race in 49 days. He hasn't beaten both of them in 49 days. So if you think that either one of you think that Chase Sexton's going to all of a sudden flip some magical switch and be calm and get shit done these last 8 rounds, I think you're both crazy. I think you're nuts. I think he's a fantastic rider. I think Chase is the future, but he's got some demons he needs to fix with himself. He needs to stay off the ground and start winning some races. Just finish the race in podiums because he's got a long ways to go before he makes up 13 points. I will give you this one benefit of the doubt, though. If he flips this switch next week and pulls off a win, it's definitely drawn him closer. But if he does not beat both of them at Detroit, his season is done. 0 opportunities.
But he's not done
budging.
Right now. You just admitted that I was right. Thank you very much.
He's budging.
If he doesn't win Detroit. Thank you. I'll take my win.
It'll put him back in it, but
huge. I can't believe you, Denny. I can't believe you just waved the white flag like that and
I did wave the white flag. I said if he gets in it, he could be back in it, but I still say he has 0 chance. 0 chance. Detroit will definitely help his problem, but if he gets drops by both of them again, he's now going to be 16.
Oh, now he got dropped. He dropped himself. They didn't drop him.
Himself.
Denny, white flag, Stephenson. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't even know what to say. I've never seen someone roll over like that other than maybe like a submissive dog with his paws up or something like that. Denny, I am flabbergasted, shocked and appalled with you basically just handing the win over to Checkers like that.
Honestly, exactly what you said.
It's very big of you. It's very big of you, and I applaud your maturity, which is new, and I understand that.
Yeah. Good job. 0 chance.
I love it. Okay. Last versus question for Denny to get wrong is Tom Vial or Tom Viali, as he is better known by Debo, versus Chris Blos. I think we know which way this one's going to go for Debo, but Debo, you have the floor.
I'm going to steal this one right out from underneath the checkers. I think Chris Blows will beat Tom Vial because I think Blows is getting a little bit better. I think Vial is getting better as well. But I just wanted to take Blows so the checkers can use him, basically. And but Vial's been making mistakes. He's been up on the ground a lot, which he's been kind of famous for, despite having 2 world championships. I think if you've watched the MX2 series the last handful of years, Tom should probably have more than 2 world championships in that class, although I don't think he can, because he's thrown away a lot of championships. He's an excellent crasher, a big crasher, and I think he'll continue to make some mistakes as he learns Supercross. There's nothing wrong with that. The fact that he has just picked up Supercross in the last 6 months, if that, is very impressive how well he's riding. But I believe the Zombie's going to put it to him, the experience. I believe this is Chris Blows' 44th main and a 250 main, that is. And I think experience will prevail over the 2 world championships.
Wow.
Well. I'm just going to say this. I told you how terrible the track was as far as they're literally S-turning back and forth across the start straightaway. There's a lot of flat stuff. So maybe it's basic enough that Tom Vial will be really, really fast, because we all know he's fast. He's a good starter.
Good starts.
Passing also will be very difficult. Those are all good things for Tom Vial. But guess what? This is my game, Denny. See, I'm the commissioner of this one because it was originated on airwheeliesonly.com. And nothing says that I have to go the opposite way. I presented a case for the opposite side. But I'm also going to tell you, it's going to be Chris Blows. He's went 7. He's went 6. He's getting his top 5 for me this weekend, so that you're wrong again. So I'm still winning, even if we quote tie on this one. And I have a feeling the base is going to be hard and the whoops are going to be big, and Blows rips when the whoops are big, and Tom Vial definitely does not. So I'm taking Chris Blows as well, and I don't care what you say.
That was the most poopy pants way to answer that ever, and I think you should be docked points for that reason and that reason alone.
Good thing I'm the
and I can always tell when Chris has added things afterwards in scheduling these versus questions, when the format does change on me halfway through reading through it, and that's also on me for not reading through the script properly prior to starting the show. We do have 2 more versus questions. Adam C. and Cerullo versus Christian Craig. Checkers, you have the floor.
This one's really difficult for me because I think it would be pretty easy if we didn't see Adam Cianciarulo be really good last weekend coming off the injury. But I'm going to go right back to the same argument I used with Ken Roczen. Adam Cianciarulo is one of the most talented guys in the field on a dirt bike. He has been his whole entire life. And it was a skill track, and plainly a skill track. Christian Craig, also a ton of skill, had a great finish. But what the difference is when they go back to a normal track, Craig is building in a positive direction. AC just came off of being off the racetrack. I have a feeling that AC is not going to be able to have the stamina to last the entire main event. I have no problem thinking Christian Craig is in shape. He passed Tomac late last weekend on a physically demanding track. So I am going to go Christian Craig beats Adam Cianciarulo in Detroit. But I think it's a really good question and a close one. Denny, where are you going?
Well, I'm not going to be a pussy like you and side with you just for the fact that I would rather go down in blaze of glory than to agree with you on anything. So I will regretfully take Adam Cianciarulo because, I'm a Christian Craig fan. And I thought Adam rode phenomenal last week. I think he blew everyone away. That no one expected him to come back from that thumb injury and ride as well as he did. And he was right on the tail of that lead pack for a very long time. He did not kick in, the wall or drop the anchor that we've seen at a lot of these rounds where he just ends up kind of riding around. He was competitive all the way to the end. But again, like Checker said, it was a very, very technical track, which Adam is a very technical rider, one of the best we've seen in a long time. But this track will be a little bit more open, a little bit faster pace. And I think we'll see Adam probably just settle in a little bit. He gets way better starts. He's obviously probably whole shot the thing. Craig, I don't think he's had a top 10 start we've seen all season long.
Except in that heat race when he got smoked by RJ.
Yeah, that was not good at all. But yeah, I can see Adam getting the whole shot. I see Craig starting about 12th, and I see him ended up about 7th and 8th by the main event. So I got Adam Cianciarulo beating Christian Craig because unlike Checkers, I'm not a pussy and going to side with him.
Fair enough. I'm glad to see you're being more mature about this. Few
Appreciate
shows ago,
it.
for those who haven't watched those ones, these guys actually, I believe they agreed with each other 3 times, and then I had to go excuse myself to the bathroom and throw up because I was absolutely disgusted. This is for sure the last versus question for this particular round. Debo, we're going back to you with Eli Tomac versus the field. Who's going to finish better? So basically this question is Eli Tomac winning this weekend or what?
Yeah, I got Eli coming back. I think he's going to rebound. He just didn't like the track last weekend. And like Checker said, it was a one-off, very, you can't call it a one-off race for Kenny to win and then say that it's not a one-off race for Eli having shit luck, or not shit luck, but just riding like shit. I think Eli rebounds. I don't think he's in his head like he used to be at the Cowie. I think he's happy with the bike. It's going to be a much different track than we saw in Indy. It's going to be much drier, as you said, probably some marbles on there. And I think Eli will rebound and take the win in Detroit and take the points lead. Obviously, he's only a point down from Cooper Webb right now. I think the track will suit Eli better than Will Cooper, and I see Eli Tomac taking the win, taking the red plate right back.
Checkos.
I didn't know which way you would go on that one, so I'm glad you did. Well, if you look at the stats, and I do agree that last weekend was an Eli Tomac rare performance, not something you see. And Tomac hasn't lost 2 races in a row all year. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Yes.
So you could argue for that, but here's the difference. You took one guy, I get the rest of the field, and I can think of a case for 5 different guys that can beat him. Fact of the matter is, Cooper Webb has confidence, a smirk on his face, and a red plate that shows he's ready to go to do battle. Then you have Justin Barcia, who's been the fastest guy on the racetrack the last 2 weeks in the main events. And then you have Chase Sexton. Guess what? He's been the fastest all season, whether you want to admit it or not.
No, he has been.
He needs to get back on the winning track. And then you have Jason Anderson, who's still hungry. He's still fast. He had 7 flipping wins last year. He doesn't just all of a sudden suck. He has been good. He just hasn't put himself in good spots. His starts have been off, but it only takes one good start and some good opening laps for Jason Anderson to reel one of these off. And finally, you said it, Roczen, he's a mental guy, and he did just win. It could trigger something. I don't see that happening, but you just give me 5 reasons to say the field will beat Eli Tomac. One of these guys is going to get it done and make me look much smarter than you and give me another point. Denny, what do you want to say that's wrong now?
Just a quick question. Ask both you guys. I'm curious. If you couldn't take, obviously, the top 3 and you had to choose between Barcia, Anderson, and Roczen to win this race, which one do you take of those 3?
I would pick Anderson to be the hungry meat in the center of that podium sandwich.
I'm not sold on Barcia just yet for the simple fact that the last 2 rounds have been really technical, demanding tracks and a little bit different. And I'm expecting Detroit to be more of a normal round. If he rides like he's done the last 2 weekends again in Detroit, then I would put him in front of Jason Anderson. But as we predicted, I believe earlier, didn't we have a Anderson versus Roczen question where I told you that I was right with Jason Anderson? Sure did.
All right,
so fair enough. Yes,
it would be nice to see one of those 3 guys step up and get a win. I think it just adds more interest and excitement to the series. So despite the fact I took Tomac for the win, watching one of those other guys pull off another victory like Kenny did last weekend is just makes the sport stronger and drives us crazy on the couch and just drives excitement. So yeah.
Oh, Anderson, if I'm not mistaken, his starts have also been trash this year. He's like basically almost never in the fight unless he's up there early and then goes down. So he would need to rectify that in order to move forward and be more in the fight. Couple other notes from Indianapolis as we continue our discussion. Hardy Munoz, he pushes the bike off at the beginning of the start, so he actually avoided crashing in the main event by not actually racing in it. Between the battle between himself and the Cat, aka AJ Catanzaro, the Cat has actually beaten Hardy 2 out of the 3 mains that they've raced at the same time. Although the one time that Hardy was able to beat the Cat was a 10th place finish, which I think is more or less the trump card. As although the Cat has shown a lot more improvement and a little bit more speed in general, because there's honestly been years not so distant past where he's not even made the night show out of qualifying. He has completely changed that around. He's maybe going as fast as he ever has. Well, he got a podium one year in a completely decimated 250 East class. That's way back. I think it was like 2013. But anyway, those 2 guys have been doing battle with each other. It's a race within a race that they're probably not even aware that they're in. But Kate, What do you
real
want to
quick.
say?
Well, real
What
quick,
could
that
it
was just-
possibly be, Chris? Really, though, really.
we just had to have a Hardy Munoz update in here because we love Hardy. And I just want to clarify that is no longer a race or a battle. Hardy has far exceeded the cat as far as speed. They both, as you said, have improved. But Hardy's improved more. And he's honestly crashed a little bit less. So good job to Hardy. But we are going to continue to bring it up, and it is just pure entertainment. But we're going to keep following Hardy, whether it's Hardy versus the cat or not. I don't know. But I did think it was pretty interesting. The two main events that the cat has been in, or of the three that they've been in, Hardy's gotten 22nd twice.
Further
Hardy's all or
evidence
nothing,
that as
man.
a child, Chris liked to eat a lot of paste. Okay, so moving forward, normally we would debate with Debo, but honestly, this is not the time nor the place to debate with Debo. We are going to take that. I don't know. I'd scrap another piece of paper, but that stuff gets expensive, and I don't currently have an employer to steal office supplies from. So let's scrap that segment and move straight into basically. So, like, you guys remember midterms? Remember not bringing your progress reports home for your parents to read, be disappointed, and threaten to take the motorcycles away that they were never going to take away. They just wanted you to straighten up and fly right and actually pay attention in class for half a semester. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do right now. Instead of just berating Debo to get a take that's probably way out in left field, we are going to letter grade these teams one by one, going through the teams, the riders. We're not going to absolutely just dissect every single rider. And honestly, the assessment on both Lawrences is going to probably take about 2 seconds. But there's Superintendent Stephenson and Mr. Checkers, which they are going to be presiding over this. Of course, this was all written by Checkers. So in a way, he sort of acknowledges the fact that Mr. Stephenson, the superintendent, is not only the more intelligent, but also is sort of the boss of all of this. And that's why he's going to kick things off. Mr. Superintendent Stephenson, you get Factory Honda HRC.
Quick little story, briefly. Hayden Deegan's father, Brian Deegan, we grew up together. He lived in Bellevue, Nebraska. I was over at Omaha, Nebraska. My senior year, I missed about 45 days traveling to Golden State, traveling all the races, racing. I was racing national Supercross when I was a senior in high school. And I missed so many days of school that I was in failing status. Well, Brian Deegan's father was a superintendent of the Bellevue School District. And Brian's father, John Deegan, wrote a letter of recommendation to the Millard School District. And due to his letter, I was allowed to graduate high school. So speaking of superintendent's old stories right there. So that's why
I like
I'm a
it.
Deegan fan. We go way back.
They
So
just
anyways,
sold their house too, by the way, 3.5 million.
3.9 or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's done well. I'm very happy for him and the entire family. Big fans. So anyways, Factory Honda HRC. Obviously the Lawrence brothers are crushing this year. Incredible family, incredible story, and just incredible talent. Let's be honest. And then Hymas, I think he came in. I think he did really well. The fact that Honda pulled him off the road, off the series, is a bit of a mark against them for right now. And the fact that Chase has gone from being right up there in the points lead to third, now 13 points back. I would originally given him an A+, but with Chase dropping back 13 points, pulling Hymas off the road, I'm going to drop him down to an A-. Still crushing it. I'm a Honda fan, have been through and through since the 80s. With Johnny O, Rick Johnson, David Bailey, and I think Honda's back to the glory days. They're looking great, and Lars Lindstrom's kicking some ass. So an A- for Factory Honda HRC.
Strong. Checkers, Mr. Checkers, I'll allow you to break down and give a letter grade for HEP Suzuki.
Well, I tell you what, if I were the parents of HEP Suzuki, I would be telling the parents that their child was very close to failing. But a nice final finish here from Ken Roczen pulling off a win is going to at least help bring their grade up to a C. And the reason being is it's nothing to do with Roczen, really. I mean, you have Ken Roczen, and he's doing okay. He's not exceeding expectations of what he would be doing on a different team. Although he has elevated their team, but we have to look at everyone else. Chisholm's having one of his worst years in history. McElrath has not been anything special, although he's gradually getting a little bit better right now, but the field's also getting depleted. But then you go over and look in the 250 class, Marshall Welton's failed to make two main events. He's sitting 18th in the East, and he's getting beat by full-on privateers, Jeremy Hand and Hardy Munoz. Like, he shouldn't be getting beat by dudes out of like a van. And then you look at Dylan Schwartz, he's sitting 17th on the West. He has made every main event. He started off this season terribly with 2019-18, but he did get his best finish of a 13th. So maybe he's a little bit more of a bright spot. But really, other than the shining star of Ken Roczen getting a win, the whole team's been pretty much a letdown this year. So a C for Hep Suzuki.
C for Hep Suzuki. All right, moving on. That's a very unfortunate. They'll probably get a leather belt when they get home, when they bring that thing home. That is going to be a sad state of affairs. Let's move over to the green team. Team Green, not only the factory team, but also Pro Circuit Kawasaki. That was absolutely decimated with injuries. So we can only grade what has happened so far with that team. I don't think you can really hold injuries against them. Debo, it's time for Superintendent Stephenson to break down the green guys.
Well, I know. I think you can hold injuries against when you lose 5 of your 6 riders. Something's going on over there. I mean, it's not
Ouch.
Not quite the decimation we've seen. We've not seen that in any other team. So I think there's got to take some type of responsibility, whether it be the track they're riding on, whether it be the talks they're having, whether they're the heads, the mindset these riders are in or something. I'm not really quite sure. I don't think anyone knows, because it's I'm a big Mitch fan. Obviously, he sponsored me, did a lot of work for me over the years. Bones, everybody over there, Mitch, it's just Pro Circuit's a rad deal in what they've done, but they're struggling, man, right now. We all thought they were coming with guns ablazing, more experienced than Star and the other teams, and here they are. It was left with Cameron McAdoo and Chris Blows. Very disappointing that's what they came down to, and everybody's got hurt. I can feel their pain. I know injuries suck. And then with Jason Anderson, again, we thought he was going to come in and be a championship contender, and he has not. He's ran 4th, 5th, and 6th predominantly most of the season. We have not seen the same flashes of greatness that we thought we were going to see and we saw last year. And then Adam Cianciarulo, we knew he was coming in hurt. Again, he's just kind of just out there, and I'm glad he's out there, because he's a big part of the sport, and to get a great finish last weekend. But again, I can't give him any more than probably a C+, because they don't have a win. Hep has a win. But they got, more success, a little depth deeper with Cianciarulo, Blows, and obviously McAdoo's been 3rd every round, and could get a win one day if there's some type of explosion indoors. And but yeah, I'm giving the whole Monster Energy Kawasaki Pro Circuit 250, 450 team a C+ right now. They are not living up to their expectations right now.
For those keeping track at home, so far this season, Jason Anderson is averaging his qualifying. This is through the heat race, not during the time qualifying. Is a 4.4. He has no hole shots on the year. He is averaging his start around 7.1. And because they don't keep track of stats for Triple Crowns, he has 0 laps led with an average finish of 4.9. Currently holds down 4th in points. And if I'm not mistaken, he's not even that far ahead. He is only 2 points ahead of Ken Roczen to slip to 5th in that same spot. Smash cut to last year, where his qualifying actually very similar, 4.6. His average start was 3 full positions better with a 4.3. He had led 135 laps last year. Of course, that's at the end of the season, and an average finish of 4.4. Incredible to see. Obviously, he has a DNF in there. That's what's sort of throwing that off. But and he also had 7 wins last year. So a pretty stark contrast from one year to the next for Anderson, and that's why we have those expectations that we have on him so far this year. He hasn't been able to basically rekindle or recapture the success that he had from last year. Perhaps it's still there. Checker said that he's still hungry, so maybe he's able to like grab hold of that down the stretch, but that'll be yet to be seen. Mr. Checkers, you have Red Bull Factory KTM.
And I'm going to grade this one based on the fact of my expectations for them coming into the season, and I'm going to go all the way to a B+ for them. And the reason being, you have Cooper Webb, who, I mean, we'd all of us, I think, on this podcast has kind of given up on him coming into the season, even being in the talks as a title contender. He's bounced back. He has the red plate, 2 wins, 7 and 9 podiums, been in the top 5 every single race. Aaron Plessinger has had probably the best season of his career, and he's just getting better. Exceeding expectations. It's unfortunate Marvin Musquin went out, but the rest of the team's doing so well that you haven't really noticed it. Tom Vial, other than crashing out of Daytona, He's been in the top 10 every main event, best finish of a fourth, sitting 8th place in the points on the East, even after missing around. I think that's exceeding expectations for him of what we would expect from him in Supercross. Biggest thing is he's staying healthy, getting ready for that motocross championship. And the final one is Max Voland, which would be, he's the weakest link on the team for sure. But again, Denny's going to yell at me because I'm going to say he showed flashes of brilliance. He's had 2 top 5s. Unfortunately, he did miss a main event, but in my opinion, Max Voland is also much improved, sits 8th in the points on the West, and he has the rest of the season to continue to get better. I'm very high on the Red Bull KTM team, and I'm giving them a B+.
Like they just own the end of the alphabet. They got Webb, Voland, and Vial. Like that is the. Like if they were graduating this year after these report cards, their names would be picked last. But they're
sitting in the back of the classroom.
100%, absolutely. They're with me when I had my my motocross action magazine stuffed in the back and learning absolutely fucking nothing. But that's totally fine. Still turned out okay, and I actually submit written things to a website that publishes them for the world to see, and that still blows my fucking mind. Verb Moto, catch the fever. All right. Janitor Stephenson, you have Star Racing Monster Energy Yamaha.
Well, as they said in Breakfast Club, the janitor knows everything. So I'll take that title.
Wow. He's thinking on his feet today. You Checkers, you're in for it tonight because Denny's actually firing on one cylinder.
Yeah, blowing it up. Let's see. Monster Energy Star Yamaha is doing fantastic. Tomac obviously is crushing it this year. We thought he would. Ferrandis is doing pretty much what we thought he would. We really didn't have many high expectations. But the 250 class, I think we thought that they got an old guy in Smith. They got a rookie in Deegan. They really didn't have that big high expectations. I think we even talked at the beginning of the series that these guys were probably coming in under the radar more than they ever have because they usually have a lot bigger guns. And then look at Justin Cooper. Look at him coming in, doing phenomenal on the 450, running top 10 in every round he was at. I think they're doing great as they've always done. They've got a great program. I've always believed that taking everything under one roof, moving it to Florida, I think is the greatest thing you can do. They're able to do things that maybe some of the other Japanese and Austrian factories cannot do because the bosses at the head of the OEMs, and I think Star's kind of stepped away and let Keith McCarty and those guys have let these guys do what they want to do, and they're crushing it. So I'm giving that Star Yamaha team a B+ right now. They still don't have any big wins in the 250 class. They got a couple, but they're not going to win any titles. But I think Tomac still got in there, so I got a B+ for the Monster Energy Star Yamaha team.
That's not bad. And I'm going to give a shout out to Daxton Bennick going 2 for 2 in the Supercross Futures. Moving things on to Principal Checks, who has the white KTMs, Rockstar Husqvarna.
The bright spot here has to definitely be RJ Hampshire, being second on the West and really the second best.
And their fastest 450 guy.
We'll get there. But he's beaten McAdoo 3 of 4, I believe. So and honestly, he's closer to Jet than maybe I thought he would be. And has held it together more than I thought he would. So it's a big up for RJ Hampshire. And also he jumps on the 450 at Daytona, puts it in the top 10, proves that motorcycle is not what's holding guys back. Malcolm is definitely a huge downer. And it sucks that I can't really blame it on the team. It's blaming on him for making mistakes and crashing and then being out. The one bright spot, he got his heat race win in San Diego in impressive fashion. And holy crap, has he been fast. He was also fast qualifier that day. But having him out, Christian Craig, he is 8th in points. He's got 5 top 10s in a row now with the best finish of a 7th. So at least he got over the hump. He's building, but right now he's still underperforming, I would say. I mean, he's probably right now where I expected him to be most of the year, but a lot of people had higher expectations than me. Talon Hawkins, his best finish was his 11th at his debut. He got thrown in here early because the guy's getting hurt, but I mean, honestly, he's been a pretty big letdown. He's barely making it into main events at times, sits 15th in points. And maybe the other bright spot is Casey Cochran, who they have to wait at least another full year before they're bringing him up. He's been running in the futures class as a B rider and been on the podium and has been super good. So at least they have that in their future. But I don't understand what it is with Rockstar Husqvarna guys in the 250 class not being able to get through whoops, but it has been absolutely ridiculous. And Hawkins is just another one. And I hope Cochran's learning, because it's been terrible. I mean, I've been beating up on the Jalik Swole thing forever. And when Styles was there, he couldn't do it either. So to give them a grade, C plus, I guess, because of there's enough good with Craig and RJ to give them maybe a C plus. They're passing, but just barely.
Fair enough. Well, for those who don't pay attention to amateur racing, and I know more than a few podcasts who don't, Casey Cochran in the B class, who was actually racing against Daxton Bennick, who's actually in the A class. Both races, Cochran was able to take home the second place spot. Really, really strong in both those races. He's racing the B class and has been absolutely unstoppable in the Texas two-step right now. They finished up in Freestone. He grabbed 2 championships, and he's well on his way to 2 more championships at Underground right now. And fingers crossed he ends up showing up to the World Mini, which is hosted by Verb Moto. They're finally bringing that race back. It's at Mesquite this year, April 6th through 9th. It's going to be a really cool format, and hopefully a few of those guys. I think Jet Reynolds is going to race it, but hopefully a few of the more West Coast guys like Cochran end up showing up. Educational assistant / student teacher Stephenson, you have the floor now with Red Bull Gas TLD. Complete side note, back in the day, it's no surprise to anybody that I struggled with reading and writing comprehension skills at a very young age. A lot of that had to do with the fact that I was in French immersion for the first 3 years, but we're not going to get too much into that. But I did have a really, really hot student teacher throughout my youngest years, and she had these really big boobs. And I thank her a lot for my ability to read and write, because if she couldn't keep my attention for all that time, we might not be doing this. So huge shout out to her. They were massive. They were really special. Like I think I got caught staring at them more than a few times. But go ahead, Denny.
I'm sure that TLD gas team also has aftermarket top ends.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, I 100% they do.
I don't even know how to follow that, man. I tell you, you could be on the front page of TMZ. You keep this shit up. It's been a rough year for Red Bull TLD outside of Barsha. Barsha's been riding phenomenally, but I wasn't impressed when they re-signed Pierce Brown for 2 more years. Most of them, he obviously, I think, came in with a neck injury. There had to be something going on. We kept questioning it. Swap Moto did an interview with him, and apparently he injured his neck, maybe fractured it or something in the off season. And we've seen that. And the fact that he's out now, if you go back and watch that crash that they showed last weekend when he crashed at Daytona, he landed right on his head, kind of folded his head down a little bit. They haven't said anything, but I guarantee it's re-aggravated that neck injury just from seeing the crash and what we've heard. He has not lived up to expectations, but if you're coming in hurt, it's hard to. But Pierce Brown, he's a great rider with great speed, but he can't stay off the ground if his life depended upon it. I think the 50 class has been a pure wash for both those guys, which is a disappointment because it's a great team. Troy Lee puts together a great program. A huge fan of him, obviously. But Barsh is doing well. So I think we're back in the C grade even. I'm not going to give him a C minus or a C plus. I think it's a straight C across the boards. And that's just pure Barsha. We got 1 guy out of 3 doing well. So let's be honest. He's lucky to even get. He's lucky we're not in the D's.
Well, you did make note of the fact that
yours back there. I should have gave him a double D's.
You should have given him a double D's, D plus perhaps. Justin Barsha, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, actually followed you on Instagram earlier this morning. You were probably reading that notification while taking your morning piss. But in all seriousness, you might want to reach out to him via DM and ask him if his back is hurting from carrying the team every single weekend. It's been if they have a D. Or even a C minus, it's because of Justin Barsha so far this year. All right, boys, it's time to dream on, get into that fantasy land and just sort of like drink it all in. Fantasy motocross is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And Checkers, you know more about this stuff than I do, completely honest, because whether it's the versus, like the head-to-heads or the drafting and stuff like that, I am like, this is not where my forte exists. So I'm going to hand things back to you, my friend.
Yeah, so last week, if you guys tuned in, we did our second half draft where we went through and snake drafted 450 riders, and then 3 from each 250 region. I got that first draft pick because I got absolutely demolished in the first half of the season, and demolished mostly because of injuries when I had to replace 7 of 10 spots with injuries. But we kicked off segment 2 in Indy, and I have a fresh new team and fresh hopes, and I took the win, but not without yet another injury as Michael Mosman decided to sit on the sideline. So if you look over here, actually, I look on our spreadsheet that I'm sharing, the red means injury. My first half, I had pretty much all red all across my thing. Mosman was replaced with Colin Park, and now I have 8 replacement riders on the year now. And but I got 121 points last week with my team, and you can see each of our teams over here. Brad, you beat Denny at least, but you did it without Colt Nichols. We had a rule in place that if you hired a rider that was already on the sidelines, that you didn't get them back if they just chose not to race. So you were without Nichols and Debo, 107 points minus Ferrandis. And believe it or not, the reason Denny has such a big lead, as he has 1,102 points to Brad's 1,013 and my 991, is because that's Debo's first injury of the year. Brad's whole 250 East team got wiped out before the opening round, and as I've
started
mine, yeah. So
I am pro circuit. I'm all of those. I represent the jerseys behind me.
We have a lot of ground to make up, but with Debo getting last place, it at least helps a little bit. We'll see if this string can continue, and we'll continue to monitor it. And I'm tired of replacing riders. So guys, would you quit crashing and getting hurt?
Yeah, well, you said before the draft you were afraid to even take some of your favorite riders because it's become like the Sports Illustrated cover curse or the Madden cover curse. If Checkers takes you on your team, you're guaranteed to go down. And you've definitely had a lot of injuries. This is my first one. And let's be honest, I hired Ferrandis on purpose thinking that he was only going to be out about a week. And Ferrandis looks like he's going to be out for a while now with an injury and concussion protocol still, and then pushing forward. So I think next week that me and Brad will be able to probably replace Nichols and Ferrandis with another rider. But until then,
yes,
head into Detroit, and Checkers has got a full team ahead.
That is correct. And it's going to be really interesting. So now, Denny, this is moving into the Moto360.com. And if you're not already playing, everybody, you need to go do that. It is a salary-based league that is so much fun to play, even if I'm extremely bad at it. And I got out of last place, absolutely crushed it this last weekend, and was able to pass someone who probably did not submit.
I would use crushed it loosely.
I usually do. Regardless, let's throw it over to Debo to break down this. We have some head-to-head tournaments starting this weekend.
Yeah, I like to make games within the games. I want to make everybody have a chance to get their money's worth. Between outside of winning McGrath skier, outside of winning the bike and whatnot. Each last 2 seasons, I've done a head-to-head March Madness. I love March Madness college basketball. I think it's one of the most exciting tournaments, games, seasons, whatever, a month of any sport. So I do a 64-man invitational. A lot of it's on Facebook, a lot of people on there, a lot of the top
Princeton
teams, a lot of the OGs.
Today.
And some friends who bribed me to get in because we have not been doing well. I don't even know how I got in a damn tournament. I think I'm like 89th overall. So we got 64 teams going head to head this weekend. It's a fun tournament. The winner wins a boxing trophy. The first year Checkers won it. He went undefeated through the whole round. And we used to do it a double elimination tournament. You had to lose twice before you eliminated. Checkers didn't lose one time, went all the way through the thing, won the trophy. Last year, our friend Nick Tesbert, Suzuka on the site, he won himself the trophy as well. And this year we're going to single elimination, one and you're done, baby. So another fun game within the game. The winner will take home the trophy and the title of head-to-head March Madness Battle Royale champion.
And am I mistaken, or am I facing off against the red plate holder, Checker's sister?
Yes, you definitely are. Brad, you're one of the guys that must have bribed Denny to get in because you definitely didn't qualify.
No.
I believe that you're in 160th place
That's right.
on the site. And he said it was 64 teams. So somewhere doing the math, I believe I was the only one actually that was in the top 64 out of the three of us.
That's correct.
To actually qualify.
53rd, by the way.
So you know what that means also is I'm kicking your asses. And guess what? I kicked your asses again last week. I went with a little different strategy. I haven't gone this many hot riders maybe ever in MotoExtreme360.com. And by the way, hot riders are red on the screen. And if they get in the top 10, they get a 10.
I'm going all red this week, by the way.
Otherwise,
all red.
Otherwise, they just get their normal points, which usually isn't very good. And that really actually hurt my team last week. Even though I beat you guys, I had 11th, 12th, and 13th in the 250 class. If you guys remember back to the pregame show, I was highlighting Owen, Miller, Hicks, saying all those guys could be really good picks. Really look at those guys. Well, they almost were really good picks. They just turned out to be average picks. And then to top it off, I also had Josh Hill in 11th in the 450 class, missing out on the 10-point bonus. But Nate Thrasher, Cooper Webb put her on the podium as well. Christian Craig hits the bonus. Justin Hill hits the bonus. So I had a pretty good week and kicked your guys' butts. Debo, how'd your team do?
I was very much like you. In the fact that I had 11th place, Chase Owen. I had 9th place, Colin Parks. So that got me some good points. Jeremy Hand was 16th, so that was a little bit disappointing. But then Nate Thrasher got me a second. So it was pretty good. I think the 2D class was pretty much what I could have expected. I got a hot guy, got me 10 points in Park, just missed it, Owen, obviously. And then the 450 class, I was very just like you, man. When Chase Sexton is your high money guy and he crashes when he's in second and ends up 10th, and in the process of getting 10th, he takes out your 11th place team who I got, I had 9, 10, 11, 12 was my team in the 450 last week. So I know the feeling of just missing it. I mean, if Chase could have just gotten 11th, just let Josh Hill get 10th. I would have got 10 more points, or at least 9 more points, which, a little bit of points here can just astronomically shoot you up to the standings. So I went with Hill, Wilson, Hill, and that was 9, 12, and 11th. And then Chase Sexton, who got me a 10th. So as soon as you know that your highest money guy goes down, your team's pretty much shot because you based everything on that guy. And that's kind of what I did. Took it in the shorts.
Well, unfortunately, when it comes to my team, the guys I picked were a lot different than yours. And that's, I think, why I did so poorly. Me playing fantasy motocross with you guys is a lot like when a young child wants to play a board game with the adults and you don't fully understand the rules of the game, and you're just sort of throwing stuff out there. And what the result is being basically decimated by many. Like, this is not a game where you can make up a lot of points week in, week out. And I hemorrhage points to you guys in a boatloads on a regular basis. It is both demoralizing and sort of reminds me of if there was a kid that's maybe slower or maybe not as in shape as his friends, and they're all kind of take off and he's like, wait for me, guys. That's how I play motocross fantasy. That's basically how MotoX360.com goes for me. I'm looking to try and change that around this week. What's that?
Let me give you a piece of advice and really help you out, okay?
I picked the winner. I picked Ken Roczen on my team. Fuck you guys.
I have one piece of advice for you, and it will completely change your life and at least make it not as miserable. You have to at least select riders who are at the race to get you points.
Who'd I pick?
You have Michael Mosiman, which wasn't even a cheap pick. It's not like it's a guy that was like $7. You wasted a lot of money on Michael Mosiman, who didn't even show up at the race. So if you take that one piece of advice, it'll make things a little bit better for you. At least you might still suck, but maybe you can get to 21st.
And I email out reminders, Thursday night, Friday night.
I honestly, last week, instead of fucking around with my team, I said it when we did our show, and then I didn't open it again. So that's on me.
Yeah, that's on you for sure.
It's all on you.
I sent out a cheat sheet on Saturday after the qualifying day, after qualifying race day live. That kind of gets a cheat sheet, shows all the salaries, the riders, where they're ranked 1 through 30th with the qualifying. So, if you can't figure it out,
cheat sheet.
Yeah, let's be honest. Those cheat sheets are probably the most damaging thing you can do. You start chasing lap times. Chase Sexton, fastest guy in practice, gets a fucking 10th in the main. Yeah, he's going to win a national title, isn't he? Supercross title 2023, Chase Sexton.
Well, Either way, I'm letting you guys know right now, the winning team, 250 class, Cullen Park, Jace Owen, Hardy Munoz, and Talon Hawkins, 450 class, Christian Craig, Justin Hill, Dean Wilson, Shane McElrath. That is possibly, they are all red. I don't know if you guys know, but there's an amateur team, Jace Allred, I believe, or Ty Allred. My team is very much like them, all red. And I don't know if I'm going to win or lose, but I'm risking it for the biscuit. So we'll see. Just fucking Jesus take the wheel. Biscuit.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess we didn't want to hear any advice from Brad anyway, since he's so far down. We don't want to mislead you guys. But I'm actually looking at these for the first time right now, and there are not a lot of hot riders that actually jump out at me that I could see getting in the top 10.
What about the guys I picked?
Other than Cullen Park and Cody Schock up here, who are very, very expensive. And I don't think that they're guaranteed top 10 guys. So I might be looking more at something like a Blosen Vial type base for my team. And then spending maybe a little bit more and going after dare I say, a Jordan Smith, and then maybe an Anstey or a Hunter Lawrence, depending on the 450 side. But I don't see a ton of hot value here in this 250 field. I mean, Hardy Munoz does have one top 10 finish, but I'm not spending that much money on him thinking he's going to get another. Jeremy Hand's been okay, but I don't see him getting a top 10. The one guy that maybe I would look at here to potentially get that top 10 would be Welton. But I mean, honestly, he's been pretty rough this season. I'm not seeing a lot of hot value there. Denny, do you see any 250 class? Who are your guys, I guess, that you would want to take a look at in 250 class?
Well, it's tough, because especially if you took guys last week, like you took guys who went 11, 12, 13 last weekend. So those are your fringe riders that you'd want to take this week. And then, like you said, Cullen and Cody are very pricey. It's $578 and $550,000 and aren't guaranteed top 10s. But something I always recommend, you look at how many of the non-hot riders are racing this weekend, or how many are there? There's obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hymas is out. Most of them is probably out. So we're looking at 8 riders right now who are the top guys in the points, with Blows and Viali as well behind Hayden, Martin, Smith, and the top 3 on the board. And so that's going to open up 2 spots. You know that there's going to be at least 2 spots available, if not more, if one of those guys goes down and makes a mistake. So you want to find those fringe guys. But like, again, if you took them last week, as you did, and as I did in the 450 class, you're going to be kind of fucked looking for stuff. I think Cody Schock's obviously a good risk, possibly, because you kind of look at the risk or reward. If he gets a 10th or 11th, if you go someone like Viale, he got an 8th last week. So is that really that much of a value difference in points? It's not really. So, but someone like Jordan Smith, he's still very affordable. I think he's still got some wins under his belt. As Thrasher did, you can see how close the salaries are between Thrasher, Jordan Smith, J Mark, and Hayden. There's only $22,000 separating those two, and that's because they're basically on top of each other in points for the 3rd spot on in the points overall. So the salaries reflect that. Right now, I think you got to look a little deeper into the field. Maybe something like Miller again, Michael Hicks. Luke Neese didn't have a great week last week because he was coming back from injury, but I think he's gotten a little bit better.
Neese was the rider that hit the wall in the first turn last weekend, actually. So
that's right. That's what happened.
Yes.
Exactly. And Brock Pappy, he was been riding really well, had some great results. Hunter almost landed on him, or did it, obviously, when he was lapping him, broke his clutch lever off, and Brock ended up at 20th. I don't think that's a true reflection of what he's capable of, but he's down there at $100,000. I think it's a great value. Devin Simonson, he did not qualify last week, but he had some good results prior to that. He's at $85,000. And then you got old Jack Chambers. The man, I'd say I'd rather marry a monster girl than try and take Jack Chambers again. And he is down there at $43,000. But the kid is fast. He gets great qualifying results. But he's only been in the main event one time. So he's very dangerous. AJ Candizaro, he lays down some serious great times in qualifying, but he's a type of guy, like you've talked about, he doesn't always put all 100% into all 15 minutes plus 1 lap, and he's running around usually 19th to 21st or 22nd, and you're getting, 4 to 3 points. But at $50,000, that's a great deal. You got Lane Allison, made his first main event last weekend, got an 18th for 3 points. He's now up in the salary range of about $36,000. So if you're going to take someone up there like Cody Schock and those guys, you're going to have to look a little bit deeper in the field. And I think get riders like Brock Poppy, maybe Simonson, maybe Notsky, it might be a good price, and Luke Neese. So got to look deep. Looked at those double-digit numbers.
Is knee still hurt?
No, he had like his foot looks super bruised and stuff, but he was fine last weekend as far as racing. It was just literally, I mean, he made the main event, just got pushed off the outside of the first turn into the wall. So he got up.
While we're talking about injuries, just for 1 second, did you guys hear about Bubba Pauly's thumb?
I heard it was ripped off. How did that happen?
He lost it from here onward and is now at the ICU and is literally like, they reattached it. They've had to try it twice. And he legitimately has leeches, actual fucking leeches, trying to get blood flow to the damn thing.
I heard you do not want, you better have a strong stomach if you look at his IG page. I'd heard. I have not looked.
Holy crap.
That's gnarly. Very gnarly, obviously.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no.
I'll go back to being quiet during the fantasy part.
Go ahead and go 450 guys that you want to highlight if you want to, Denny.
Obviously Adam C. and Sorello, Christian Craig are still hot right now, due to the fact that they're 9th and 10th, I think, in points. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's only 7 guys racing possibly in the 450 class who are in the top 7 in points. Cooper's out, Muskin's out, Ferrandis is out, Stewart's out, Savacci's out. So Steven Sorello and Christian Craig are possible good hot riders, but they are expensive. You're going to take 2 of them. That's a big chunk of your money. And again, someone like myself, I took Josh Hill, Dean Wilson, and Justin Hill last week. They finished 9th, 11th, and 12th. Those are my fringe hot riders. So I'm gonna have to look deeper into the pack. I'm gonna have to look at someone maybe like Cartwright, maybe Starling or Norin that won't get me good chance. They will not get top 10s, and they will not give me the 10-point bonus, but they'll give me some kind of points, because if I'm going that expensive with those 2 guys up there, I better hope they give me the 10-point bonuses. Otherwise, I am fucked. So someone like Starling, I think is good. I think he's been riding better and better. I think you're gonna have to look for someone underneath the $100,000 mark. Norin, we know, can ride. If he gets in the main event, we know he'll lay down 20 minutes plus 1 lap. He's just been struggling getting that main event, but he had a solid 15th last week for 8 points, which would be nice. Clausen has not really put things together. Josh Cartwright, again, but 19th. You got to get someone who's getting in that 15 to 16 range, and that's, again, Kevin Moran's at 16th, but $131,000. That's a big chunk of change when you're spending nearly $1,400 or $1.4 million on 2 riders already. So what do you got, Chex? What do you think?
Well, I mean, definitely looking at it, and I think you have to almost assume that Christian Craig and Adam Cianciarulo will be in the top 10 and they'll hit their bonus. I'm really in a situation where I only can take one of them with Craig being out. So I can pretty much guarantee I'm going to find a way to get AC on my team. It's basically a cheaper way to hopefully get 26 points or potentially more. I think the other one that really hurts right now is Justin Hill, because he's just short of, or just a little bit more than half the price of those guys. And I also think he's most likely going to be in the top 10. He's gotten much better. He's much improved. If he's available to you and he's not on your team, I think you're an idiot. I may look at Dean Wilson. Honestly, he's been right there. He hasn't gotten it done, but he's been right there. I'm got to hope to get lucky and get him into a top 10. Chiz finally had his best race. And I mean, if I'm going between Moran's and Chisholm, that's it, or even Bloss might have a little bit more upside. Maybe he's a gamble that you want to take, but I'm taking Kyle Chisholm because I think I'll get consistent points, because once he's in the main, he's going to finish the main and not crash out. I most likely will take a gamble on Cade Clayson this week.
Who's your buddy?
I don't know. As I'm saying that, Freddie Norin has had better main event results and pretty close to the same salary. The thing with Cade is he's riding really, really well. He's going fast. He's been hitting the ground more than ever. And so you got to gamble on, well, maybe he's cheap and puts it together. He's to the point where I mean, he should be in the main event every single weekend, even at the beginning of the year, the way he was riding. Sure. So those are some of my guys to really look at. It is very interesting right now that Cooper Webb is now the most expensive guy, but it's not much more than Tomac. But there is a good gap to Sexton. And I mean, we talked about Sexton's in a must win, but you gamble like you did last weekend, and Sexton's the one that can potentially finish off the podium. At the last not last minute, but the last minute on my Thursday team, I made changes to be able to jump from Sexton up to Webb because of the consistency. Because I'm more looking to, not lose and have a guy get a 10th like Sexton with crashing. I was more into the Cooper Webb thing, and it paid off exactly like that. We've talked about a bunch. Barsha, fastest guy. He's the cheapest guy that I think can be on the podium. Aaron Plessinger, I think, can be maybe at the top of a fourth. So those are the guys that I'm looking at. I'm going to try to whip through a prelim team if you have yours ready and want to present that, Denny.
Well, a funny thing about Dean Wilson, and who's not a big fan of Dean Wilson, he gave a pretty honest interview recently. He's talking about the anxiety he's dealing with the injuries. He's had some pretty extreme injuries, obviously with the foot peg and whatnot. And but he
a little gun shy.
Yeah, a little gun
justifiably
shy.
So.
Yeah, and yet he is yet to make a top 10 finish. He's been on the cusp every round. I think I take Dean every time, every other weekend, because you can't hire the same rider every weekend. And he is currently in 9th in points, with the best finish of 2 11ths, 3 12ths, a couple 14ths, and 1 13th and a 15th. So he's right on that cusp with the bubble. I think that there's obviously 3 open spots, maybe 2, maybe 1. I'm hoping Dean can get up there. I don't have him this week, but I think he's always a great rider to take. I think he's a great salary. And with Tomac and Sexton getting an 8th and 10th, they dropped their averages. So their salaries have obviously gone down a little bit. So they're probably more affordable than they've been all year long, especially Chase. And according to you, he's going to rebound and win this weekend. So obviously Chase might be a good value and for him, because he is at $750,000. I think that's the cheapest he's been all season long. I'm still working on my team. Obviously, I've got 5 hot riders. I've got $1.1 million to try and fill 3 spots left. It has been a challenge. What is the latest on Benny Bloss? Has anyone heard? I didn't see him on the racetrack's injury report, but he did crash early, and I don't think he raced the rest of the night. I don't believe. Did anyone hear anything about him?
No, he crashed out of that heat race
Inconsistent.
and then didn't ride. But you have to keep an eye on maybe practice times for that one to see. I mean, that would be a lot of value there in the 450 class if you can get Benny Bloss, because I mean, he legitimately could get a top 10. Like I don't. Oh yeah, don't believe that he could. Chances
in
of
this field, if Justin Hill can get a top 10, he can get a top 10.
I don't even think I'm going to be able to give you guys a Thursday team while we're on this, or we're going to be sitting on this thing forever. So it's really tough with the big gap, I think, in the 450 class. And the more data we have, the harder it is, because the salaries start to get more where they're probably supposed to be, and the results are more predictable. So I don't know. We'll be here all night if I try to do this, because I'm moving guys around and I'm not finding a team I like still. So,
well, yeah, if you want to know who to avoid, which is the guys on my team,
you pick your
Cullen
team,
Park, Jay Sowen, Hardy Munoz, Talon Hawkins, Christian Craig, Justin Hill, Dean Wilson, and Shane McElrath. That is what's going to add up for at least 3rd within these 3, and possibly 23rd in the BigmX Radio League, where I think if you add yourself right now, you still might be able to catch me.
Who did you pass in the big MX Radio? You're not.
I don't know, but I guarantee they did not submit a team. Or maybe they had Mosman too, I bet.
I believe it.
I'm going to look. You guys continue chatting.
Well, I was actually pulling it up already, Brad, to check it out. So you can go ahead and start doing the wrap up, and I will have the answer for you as we're doing that.
All right, guys. Well, appreciate everybody who took the time to listen and watch this episode of the BigmX Radio Detroit Supercross pre-game show. This was so much fun. I really enjoy every time we get an opportunity to do this. Denny, thank you so much for making the time for this. It looks like at the very beginning of the show, you were worried about glare and the sun being in your eyes, but now I think the biggest worry of yours is the insect life around Arizona being drawn towards your laptop at this point, because I'd imagine that it is getting quite dark over there.
It is pitch black. It's lovely, beautiful weather. It's nice to sit outside and talk to you guys. Obviously been doing it in a smaller room in Omaha back home during the winter. It's been beautiful out here seeing my mom and her husband, Jerry, and hanging out with my son, Riley. So thank you again for having me. Checkers, you've been phenomenal. Brad, you've been great. And everybody's listening. We really appreciate you tuning in and taking your time, because we really enjoy this and we love having a good time and bringing our arguments, our stories, and a little bit of trash talk to all you guys. So thank you for listening.
Absolutely echo those statements. Really thought that that Checkers was going to bring his A game. He talked to Big Game about that, and he was kind of peacocking around and talking about all these facts and stats. And I, for one, was disappointed in the whole deal. But I think the show as a whole went off quite well. And once we hang up on this thing, we're going to talk about it. But Checkers, I'm disappointed, but I appreciate your time nonetheless.
Well, I didn't have to say much when Denny says so much wrong stuff that's obviously wrong. He just proves himself wrong. I mean, at one point he maybe could have won an argument, and he gave me the win still. So thanks for waving the white flag, Denny. We're going to see a Chase Sexton win this weekend. We're going to see Chris Bloss getting in the top 5. It's going to be amazing. And you know what else we're going to see? A whole lot of action from the Hardy Party, baby. Let's go to Detroit.